everyone. Welcome to Alexei Show on Binance Live. This is your host, Moonlight, and our program aims to invite viewers from various Web3 projects, including founders, engineers, and the artists, musicians, athletes, etc. Our guest speaker today is Alexei from Interlay. Alexei is a co-founder and CEO of Interlay, and we're going to learn about his blockchain research, projects, plan, and how he got a PhD degree while leading the company. And now, yeah, we believe that he must have excellent time management skills, right? Right now, let's welcome Alexei to our Audiverse Live show. Alexei, could you please give us a quick intro about yourself? Thank you.
Hey everyone, nice to be here. Great to meet you. So I'm Alexei. I'm one of the two co-founders of Interlay. I'm a computer scientist by trade and started working on Bitcoin research in 2015 and have been actually focusing on this ever since and really trying to build new technology to enable more applications and help or try to contribute to adoption of Bitcoin across the globe, mainly coming from this technical security and interoperability angle. And today I get to wear the CEO hat at Interlay, which means that I get to focus on building a decentralized bridge for Bitcoin to enter other ecosystems and then figure out which use cases we can unlock for Bitcoin users to really go beyond just payments and really unlock Bitcoin's full potential in the decentralized financial ecosystem.
Wow, sounds very interesting. Then we know that since 2015, Alex has worked on different Bitcoin related topics, just like what you mentioned. Yeah, your targets about Bitcoin and bring it to different chains. And also, your research was mainly revolving around security and interoperability. You also have published so many research articles about XCC and Xclaim. Could you please tell the audience what they are about? And also, do you mind try to explain those concepts by using some simpler terms to the audience who first learned about this? Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So my most recent research and over the past years has been focusing on bringing Bitcoin to other blockchains and generally understanding the challenges and difficulties of cross-chain communication of bridges. And as most of the listeners probably know, bridges are dangerous. It's difficult to build them. And unfortunately, a lot of them are centralized. And my work on the research side focused on identifying why it's so difficult to build bridges and developing a framework for developers and researchers to analyze and review existing bridge solutions, but also do have a step-by-step guide of, okay, how do I build a decentralized bridge? What is the most dangerous part? Where can things go wrong? And then from that, realizing that it's very difficult to build bridges and that in the end, you always trust someone just because by design, blockchains don't talk to each other. You end up having somebody in between those two blockchains that you need to trust. And there is no way around this. However, what you can do, and this is what Bitcoin actually does, is you can make people, you can motivate these players, these people to do what the protocol wants them to do. And in Xclaim and XCC and all the work that kind of later led to Interlay and the Interlay bridge design, the key concept here is that we use incentives and punishment to really try to direct the behavior of these participants, of these bridge operators in a certain direction. So prevent misbehavior, disincentivize attacks, and rather incentivize correct behavior. And it uses the same tools that make Bitcoin work today, right? Bitcoin works because people don't want to fork it. Miners don't want to attack the system because they will miss out on rewards if they fail. And the same, this is the same concept that we then used in Xclaim, which is the core paper that then led to the Interlay bridge design. And here we use collaterals and vault deposit. Vaults have to lock up collaterals and other assets. And then we use cryptographic proofs to verify specific Bitcoin transactions. So the idea is that we can always check that specific events happened on Bitcoin and can react to it on the other chains. And if attacks are detected, then we can take this collateral and use it to reimburse potential victims. And that's essentially at the very heart, that's the core idea. And XCC is an extension to this. It's not yet deployed. This is a very new research paper that was published in last May during the Bitcoin Miami conference. And the idea here is that we would like to improve security even further and find a way how we can build bridges bridges that don't require users to give their BTC to the bridge operator. Today, and that's how all bridges work. Users deposit their Bitcoin into some accounts that are held by operators, whether these are centralized operators or decentralized. And with XCC, what we tried to do and made very good progress is have a way where the BTC remains in the user's wallet, under the user's control, using multi-signature schemes similar to how Lightning works. And the beauty of this is that your Bitcoin can really not be stolen. So you don't need collateral because you know that the operator can never steal it. But there are, of course, difficulties. The usability is not so good as with the other models. And right now we're kind of trying to figure out a way how we can make it as usable and as easy to operate as just a centralized wrapped asset bridge. But for now, we use kind of this decentralized with kind of collateral insurance model.
I see very well, and I believe that currently we have over 900 close to 1,000 audience online, and I believe that everyone seems to see the research paper that you were talking about, and so I already paste your personal website link to our chat box from our Binance Live audience, and they could feel free to learn more about XCC and XClaim on your personal website as well, because I have read it and I believe that this is a great addition for our viewers as well. And next, we would like to learn about your educational background, because we learned that in 2000, which is this year, you just earned a PhD degree in computer science. Could you please tell us a little more about your study? And we also have community members who are interested in applying for the Imperial College London because of your influence. So hope you could tell us a little bit about your life, and while you were in school, how did you balance your schoolwork and also leading a company in Chile? So talk about what is typically like while you were a PhD student. Thank you.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. So indeed, after quite some time now, I had my PhD defense. I still need to make some final tweaks here and there, but kind of my research career for now in the academic sense is for now completed. And I now focus my time on really building these things and coming more from this practical angle. I started my PhD actually completely by accident. So I was working on Bitcoin since my bachelor's thesis and looking into Namecoin and other things, and really wanted to focus on this full time. And back then in 2017, there was not that much, right? It was right before the whole ICO boom. And there were not that many companies that were actually hiring, and that's where, especially in Europe, where you could really commit to full-time technical research and development. And by coincidence, I did an internship at Imperial in the same lab that I later did the PhD in. And we did a fun project. We showed how to attack and break an Ethereum mining pool, and actually got shut down after that. And then blockchain.com, one of the biggest companies back then in the space, partnered with Imperial College, and they had this open position to do a PhD, and basically we're on their research program and do student projects and collaborate on different research areas. And for me, it was okay, do I go into industry and really start doing consulting and focusing on this industry aspect, or do I really stay in research? And for me, it was quite clear that at that time, the things that were being sold by big consultancies were not going to work. They were very, very early, very primitive, not really decentralized. And so I took the chance and basically started doing a PhD, which basically meant I got to spend all of my time on trying to figure out how we can improve Bitcoin. And at first with blockchain.com, the idea was to work on payment channels, and there was some work also published in that direction a bit later of how we can make Bitcoin more efficient. But we soon realized that, okay, there's a lot of work done on Lightning, but there is not much work done on how we can use BTC on other blockchains. And that's kind of what became my topic. And during my PhD, I met Dominic, who is my co-founder today. We were the first two people in Imperial College's cryptocurrency lab. So it was a big, not very nice office. And it was just the two of us there. And then with time, more and more people joined. And today, I think the lab has 15, 16 people. And I think it's one of the biggest in Europe. And yeah, I mean, at first it was just research. So we kind of this really liked the idea of working on this project and figuring out how we can move Bitcoin over, because nobody had really found a decentralized solution before. And one thing led to another. We came up with this paper, and it worked, right? So you never know when you start a research project, are you going to find a solution or not? And then we decided to submit it to the Scaling Bitcoin conference, which is a very technical Bitcoin developer conference that was run between 2015 and 2019, I think. And it was mainly Bitcoin focused, and we were quite surprised because it was a Bitcoin on other chains project, so it had to do with like not only BTC but other blockchains as well. And we were quite surprised it was accepted, and we actually got to present this idea for the very first time, actually, to the very Bitcoin core community, and the feedback was very positive because the design was decentralized, and people were back then already aware that other chains will exist and people will move Bitcoin to other blockchains. And so it's better to have a decentralized solution than a centralized one. Interestingly, that was exactly like basically within that month, WBTC, the centralized Bitcoin operator, the biggest one today, actually announced that they're launching the centralized version of Bitcoin Bridge. So basically, both designs came out at the same time. But for us, we didn't really focus on building it back then. So it was just a research project. We had found the solution. We had done some proof of concepts. But then we saw the demand. We saw like how much Bitcoin is being moved onto Ethereum. And we were approached by both Cosmos and Polkadot, who both wanted to launch their networks with a decentralized Bitcoin bridge. And we ended up, we did an evaluation, and we ended up starting this project, just the two of us initially, to really take the paper and build a proof of concept on Polkadot and show that it actually works. And it's a very different thing that you find so many difficulties, so many challenges and things that don't work, right? The paper is 18 pages long. The specification is 250 pages long. So like it's a whole different level of kind of detail that you have to go into every single step. You need to like go through a lot of the kind of thinking to be sure that it doesn't break. And yeah, and that's kind of how Interlay was born. So at that time, both Dominic and I had already kind of finished our PhDs. We had done our research. We were kind of at the final stages. So it was a very nice transition of doing only research work to now finally getting to build some of it in practice. Right? Often researchers are very happy when some company actually builds what they've designed. And for us, it was okay, we could get to do it ourselves. And yeah, I mean, a typical day back then, it was very funny because it was basically just Dominic and me. It was the same as usual, except that we would just wake up and you had no schedule, no meetings, no nothing. It was just, okay, we have to write this specification, write the code. And then we had our first team members join. And well, today we're 24 people, 2.5 years later. So it's kind of looking back, it's very funny to look back and see like, okay, it was just a paper, it's just a fun project, and how basically the switch came from, okay, this is just fun, to, okay, now we have actually like to think a lot about how we scale the company, how we scale operations, how we do integrations, business development, and so on. So yeah, I can say, like, as a PhD student, and most people who do PhDs will probably tell you, your day doesn't have a structure. You get up late, you work until 3 in the morning. But this changes very quickly once you have to run a company, and then you have a very structured day. So yeah, I think it's for the better, but that was the kind of biggest change, I think.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing those, and must be a very challenging time, but also lots of great memories as well. And of course, we would like to schedule another meeting with Alexei to talk more about this topic in the near future as well. A tentative name for the upcoming interview with Alexei might be how to do research on Bitcoin, crypto, or on blockchain, and how to apply for a PhD program in blockchain, because our audience, most of our audience today are actually in the crypto field. And currently we have, let me look at the number, we have over 1,100 people online watching this live streaming with Alexei as well. And next, let's talk about your projects and what brought you to Web3, and also made you wanted to focus on building cross-chain projects. I know we already talked a little bit about it, but wanted to go in deeper to focus on your projects as well.
So I actually started off with something completely different. It wasn't really Bitcoin as well. The first thing I started working on and got excited about was Namecoin, actually. So Namecoin was the first alternative cryptocurrency that was launched. And Satoshi himself was still involved in the project. And the idea was Bitcoin is used for payments, but the internet today, even Bitcoin, this decentralized layer, all the websites sit on a very centralized infrastructure with the DNS and one big organization, the ICANN, deciding who gets which domain names and them being able to censor, right? They could say, no, you're not allowed to have this domain, and they'll just turn it off. And Namecoin focused on trying to build a decentralized DNS. So basically a completely decentralized way to access websites and have browsers like internet browsers access these websites in a way that you can't censor them. And today, like we see a lot of this now in other projects like IPFS, the Ethereum name system, and all of these are actually evolutions from this very, very first project, Namecoin. And I actually bumped into it when I was doing research on Tor traffic. So I was looking into how people use Tor and basically how secure it is, and kind of found this as a way to, okay, we could actually use some public ledger to store some information, and kind of started working on this. And only much later, like the way I got into cross-chain was we found out that Namecoin doesn't work. It was unfortunately like all the domain names were squatted. People were just buying them up and trying to, pick up all the interesting names before the project could actually be used by most normal users. And the reason was that Namecoin was merged mined with Bitcoin. And this was actually the very first time I had a contact with a cross-chain protocol. And this was also the very first cross-chain protocol that ever existed. And it was launched actually back in 2011. So cross-chain is actually a very old topic. Specifically, back then when Satoshi also was still around and Namecoin had launched and other cryptocurrencies were being launched, the idea came up that mining power should not be fragmented. So instead of having many, many different projects and miners have to pick and choose, that all of these projects should connect to Bitcoin and reuse Bitcoin's mining power. So a miner could mine on Bitcoin, but at the same time, without switching, without choosing, also secure other cryptocurrencies. And that's what's called merged mining. And a few projects today still use it, like the RSK, Bitcoin sidechain is merged mined. And that's how I got into cross-chain, because we realized, okay, hey, you have suddenly Bitcoin and Namecoin, they're connected, they're talking to each other. And unfortunately, that's what actually killed Namecoin, because that led to centralization issues. That's kind of the way that I started working on cross-chain. And from there it was, okay, why is cross-chain difficult? What's the dangers? How can we use this to secure blockchains? How can we use this to attack different blockchains? And we then we saw these first crypto wars with different blockchains attacking each other, like EOS launching spam attacks on Ethereum. And that's kind of like I was hopping between all of these topics, like bribing attacks, and so on. But then there's a full list of different topics on the website that I think was shared. So it ranges from decentralized mining pools to cross-chain attacks, and then ultimately Interlay. So that's kind of the short backstory.
Wow. That's really, what a great journey, and eventually leading you to, do a very good, project and called IBTC, right? And so, that also leads to our next question. Could you please talk in depth about the flagship product of Interlay IBTC? Thank you.
So Interlay's flagship product is called IBTC or InterBTC, and it's not a bridge, right? It's not really a bridge. Bridges and people associate bridges with you have one centralized party, they take your funds, and if they get hacked, money is lost. And we've seen a lot of bridge hacks with Nomad and many more before, right? Interlay's design is completely different. The functionality to the users, it looks the same, but in the background, the design is completely different. The design combines the design of stablecoins and of bridges to create something completely new. The idea is that when we move Bitcoin from the Bitcoin blockchain to, let's say, Polkadot or Ethereum or Cosmos, we create a wrapped asset, right? Most people are familiar with wrapped assets, right? It's a representation of Bitcoin on the other blockchain. So like WBTC and so on. It's just a native token on the target chain. And if you have a token, you should be able to get one Bitcoin back. If you have one wrapped Bitcoin token, you should be able to get one BTC back. But the challenge is that 99% of all of the BTC in DeFi, and there is a lot of BTC in DeFi, namely 430,000 Bitcoin has been minted or moved into other blockchain protocols. That's $9 billion. But all of it, like 99.9% is centralized in centralized bridges, which can be hacked and all the Bitcoin can be stolen. So what Interlay does, we say, okay, we don't want to have one trusted player. We want to build a decentralized network where anybody can become a bridge operator. In Interlay, we call them vaults. And anyone, you, me, anyone in this call can go and download the software, or you don't even need software. You just register as a vault, and you are now securing Bitcoin that is moved to other blockchains. But obviously, people on the internet, they don't want to trust each other. And while you could say, okay, somebody like BitGo is a big company and they have a reputation, if you have random people on the internet becoming vaults, you don't know who they are. They have nothing to lose. So of course, you don't want to send them your Bitcoin. And the way we solve this problem, right, by having decentralization, but also security, is we require these vaults to put up collateral. Vaults lock up collateral in different assets like Polkadot, native dots, or USDT, USDC, other stablecoins, other layer one tokens, and they lock them up in the Interlay chain. And if they lose your Bitcoin, this collateral is liquidated, it's taken by the system and used to reimburse victims. And this liquidation mechanism and this whole collateral mechanism works exactly like MakerDAO's DAI. And essentially, this makes this part of the system is like a stablecoin, right? That part is very similar to how DAI works. You lock up collateral, you have to make sure that your collateralization rates are high enough that the exchange rates don't drop too far because that might get you liquidated. And if you don't repay the loan, if you don't return the Bitcoin to the users, you will lose your collateral. And for the user, this creates this unique selling point. It's a unique design, unique product where you know that your Bitcoin are insured, right? This collateral, we can also call it an insurance. Vaults put up insurance that they won't steal from you. And for this service, you pay them, right? You pay a fee, a bridging fee, and then maybe later more fees for the vaults because you're paying for the insurance. And we know that we all love insurance, right? It's a core part of our daily lives. We insure our phones, our cars, our houses, but we don't insure our Bitcoins. Even our money in the bank is insured, right? Typically, banks give you an insurance up to a certain amount of money, or the government does. But with Bitcoin, if it's an centralized bridge, there's nothing. If it's lost, it's lost. And so on the Interlay bridge, you actually have this insurance. It's a method where even if all of the vaults steal the BTC, there's still enough value in the bridge to allow everybody to exit the system without financial damage. And that's essentially the unique design of the system. But to the user, to you, you don't see the difference. You deposit BTC into one or more vaults, you get into BTC, and you can use it on any DeFi platform. And that's the beauty of it. It's very simple to the user, even though there's a big system in the background to make sure it's decentralized.
Oh, Alexa, are you mute? Did you click on the mute? Or...
Yes. That was. I'm done with the answer.
Okay, great. Yes, perfect. Okay, just want to double check before we move on to the next question. And I started to see our audience posting a lot of questions. So we will, let our guest speaker, Alexei, CEO and co-founder from Interlay, to later spend some time. I'm going to select some and then share with Alexei, and he can spend some time to look at the questions later, and then we will definitely have time for Alexei to answer several questions as well. Let's go to our next one. Why do we need cross-chain bitcoins?
That's a very good question. You see, Bitcoin is still the #1 cryptocurrency by size in terms of volume, in terms of trading volume, in terms of global adoption and users. And Bitcoin is also spearheading, it's leading the global adoption of cryptocurrencies and Web3. In countries in Latin America, El Salvador is the best example, or in the African continent, everywhere around the world, like in Turkey with the hyperinflation, the moment the government fiat system starts failing, people switch to Bitcoin. They desire BTC as a way to escape and de-risk, and basically not be dependent on the decisions of a few individuals that are in power. The problem, and this happens. Why is Bitcoin the key to adoption? Because it is so simple. It is so easy to understand. Bitcoin is cash everywhere instantly, right? It's very easy to follow how it works. But because it's so simple, you can't do much with it. You can do payments, but that's about it. And then you have on the other side, you have Ethereum, Polkadot, Cosmos, Solana, Avalanche, all of these new chains with huge developer communities and research communities where the new innovation is happening. If you look over the past decade, the majority of new developments actually came from this new ecosystem, right? A lot of the cryptography tools, zero knowledge proofs, new light clients, smart contract techniques, all happened there. And the sad thing is that even though Bitcoin is the vision, Bitcoin is that thing that creates this vision of a true, open, decentralized financial future. But to use Bitcoin for anything more than payments, you as a user have to go to a centralized exchange, right? Whereas in Ethereum, Polkadot, Cosmos, you have DeFi ecosystems. You never have, once you're there, you never have to go to a centralized exchange again, right? But with Bitcoin, you have no other option. And this chasm is concerning, right? And this is exactly why we need cross-chain BTC. We need to connect these two worlds. Because on one hand, you have innovation, but on the other hand, you have adoption and political power. Bitcoin is more than just technology by now. Bitcoin is this vision, and we need this vision to actually get to global adoption, right? If we can get politicians, even entire countries, to look at BTC, just imagine what we can do with it and how far we can go if we actually now unlock these new, fully decentralized use cases on Ethereum, Polkadot, Cosmos, and so on. And this is the main reason why we need to connect these two worlds.
Very well. Wow. So, can you tell us how secure is IBTC or InterBTC? Thank you.
I mean, that's a tough question, right? So there's different angles to look at this. From design, right, it's decentralized, so anybody can become a vault. Vaults cannot prevent anyone from using the bridge, so you don't, as a user, you don't have to ask for permission. Vaults cannot censor your transactions by design. And we have this insurance system, this over-collateralization insurance, where you know that even if the vaults lose BTC, that you will get reimbursed. But then you have also, right, that's the protocol angle. But then you also have the code angle, right? The entire code base is open source. We have a 250-page specification. We follow best practices of software development. We have had 4 audits. We have a bug bounty program running with up to $1 million in payouts, and this is going to keep increasing as the value in the protocol increases. So a lot of our time and budget goes into security, right? So from that perspective, a system is never 100% secure. There's always something that can go wrong. And it's our duty to try to prevent this and to make sure that we spend enough time and efforts to make sure that the bridge remains secure, that Interlay network is secure. And so far it's been good, right? our system, like the collateralization system, we went through this period of where the cryptocurrency market cap crashed completely by 90%, and still the system was stable. So we've had our fair share of quite extreme, let's say, crypto weather. And I think, yeah, this is a very good test early on for the system to see that it actually is stable. But again, it's still risk. Like people, I always say, do your own research. Whenever you do something, whenever you use a cryptocurrency product, there is always risk. We do our best on the docs page and on the website to educate people. Okay, what can go wrong? What should you be aware of?
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing the information. And later, I will also post the Interlay documentation page to our chat box as well, so our audience can see it and learn more about the security of InterBTC and IBTC. So, how about the usability of it? How easy is it for the audience to use it if we are in crypto and wanted to learn more about that and wanted to try it?
So it depends what you want to do. If you simply want to use Bitcoin and DeFi, it's very easy, right? If you know how to operate a wallet, that's it. And the interface is very simple. You go on the website, you enter how much Bitcoin you want to move over, and then a QR code pops up, right? And it shows you the address where you should send the BTC. And you can also check that this vault actually has the collateral locked. You can see all this information. You can see that the collateral is in place and that it's secure. You make the Bitcoin transaction and that's it. And then in a few hours, you have IBTC in your wallet. What happens in the background is that the cryptographic proofs are submitted, but you don't have to do this manually. As a user, there's automation in place so that you don't have to go into the low-level tech and dig up these proofs. The goal was to keep the user experience very light, very simple. So for the user, it's the same way as using any crypto bridge. Like it's really the same. There is no additional complexity for users. Where it's a bit more complex is for vault operators. This is more like running a validator, right? So people who know how to run validators and run their own nodes, these are the people who can easily run an Interlay vault. We are working on making it even more easy, that you don't need to run software, that you really don't need any software to be a vault. And then you can just do it from your mobile phone, right? You can become an Interlay vault, help secure the bridge, and earn rewards from the volume of BTC moving back and forth. That's still work in progress. So for now, you do need some technical knowledge and experience to run the vaults. But I hope in a couple of months' time, we'll have simplified this so that you can do it from your mobile phone. And then it will be very easy to use. And that's the goal. Like, even if the technology is complex, and it has to be simple to use. Like a lot of projects out there, they use fancy terms like multi-party computation, zero knowledge proofs, thresholds. They throw all these complex terms at users, but in the end, these things don't make it more secure. On the opposite, if it's very hard to understand and very hard to use, these systems will break because there's not enough people who can actually look at the code and verify that they're secure. And difficult complex systems lead to more user mistakes. So our goal at Interlay is really to keep it as simple as possible, not over-engineer, and keep the user experience positive, because in crypto, the majority of issues and hacks are actually user errors. When you click the wrong button, you send the wrong transaction. And it's our goal to prevent this, right? Attacks and hacks happen, but I think most of the BTC was lost early by people losing their hardware wallet or sending the wrong transaction. So that's kind of one of our main goals.
Nice. Thank you so much, Alexei, for explaining that. And next question, we're going to focus on Interlay's plan on the roadmap. What are some of the important plans on Interlay's roadmap? Since we already talked about the past Alexeis education and other project background, and also the present, right, the flagship product. So we would like to learn more about the future plans. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the past 2 years, we've been really focusing on building the infrastructure, right? This very core low-level part of the system so that we can have decentralized trustless Bitcoin in DeFi. But now we have it. We have the only decentralized Bitcoin bridge. And now comes the fun part where we can actually build applications on top of it. So right now, our imminent goal over the next 3 months is to become the main Bitcoin and Polkadot. We're integrating with Akala, Moonbeam, Parallel, A-Star, a lot of interesting applications like EMMs, trading pools with Curve. There's a Curve version on Moonbeam, which gives you a very interesting way to use and hedge and against BTC price fluctuations or deposit into 3 or try crypto pools. And then after this, obviously lending, and the goal is to have like a basic suite of financial tools for Bitcoin, meaning trading, lending, and then some simple kind of savings accounts for BTC on all of these major Polkadot parachains. And then in parallel, Interlay will be building its own DeFi hub for BTC. The goal here will not be to be super focused on very new kind of complex financial products. The goal will be on usability. Very simple interface, very easy to use for a Bitcoin user, for the Bitcoin community, very easy to onboard from BTC or from USD into this new ecosystem in DeFi, and that you have an AMM, a way to buy, sell BTC or buy, sell other assets with Bitcoin, and you can use BTC as a way to onboard into a new DeFi ecosystem. So you don't always have to go through some smaller exchange if you need to get some token. No, you can actually go through BTC and through a fully decentralized way, and then kind of build this out with time to have lending, borrowing, and then really expand towards more sophisticated financial products, but also mainly to provide the tooling so others can build on top of Bitcoin. And essentially, I mean, there have been a few companies on Bitcoin early on, like without naming names, a few side chains that have been around for a long time, since 2015. And apart from one, they haven't really delivered, right? There is not much Bitcoin DeFi. And I think because the reason is they started a bit upside down. They said, okay, everybody has to come from Ethereum to our chain, and they have to use our tooling. And they really focused on, I'm not quite sure, like on being maximalist rather than being inclusive. And Interlay's approach is different. Our goal is to bring Bitcoin to DeFi, avoid maximalism, bridge this gap and level the playing field, and make it very easy for everyone, both Bitcoiners and the DeFi community, to use BTC. Because let's not forget, even you have like everyone in DeFi is long Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin fails, DeFi and the entire crypto industry will fail, right? So everyone in DeFi, most people we speak to, they came from Bitcoin, they have BTC, they want to use it, and this new toolkit of different tools and products will allow everyone, both Bitcoin core community, but also this newer community of DeFi users, to access BTC across different products.
Ah, I see. Wow, thank you so much for that. And pretty soon we're going to start to take our audience questions, and I already collect several and share to our host, share to our guest speaker, Alexei, as well. And my next question, actually, this is also one of the questions that was asked by the audience. What is your envision of Interlay?
So can you repeat that?
Yes. What is your envision of Interlay? What is your goal? What do you foresee? Yeah, about Interlay, and also how about public chains in general as well? Thank you.
So if you look into the future, our goal for Interlay is to become the hub for Bitcoin use cases, right? If you want to use Bitcoin and you don't want to go to centralized exchange, then you go to Interlay and really become the easiest way to use your BTC without going to a centralized exchange, fully decentralized. Use it for even for payments if you want to, but use it to make deposits, borrow other stable coins, basically also go into the real world and put BTC down as a mortgage if you need to actually, for example, get a credit somewhere else and then buy a house. So the goal is really to unlock as many new and interesting use cases as possible and serve the Bitcoin and DeFi communities as a way to make access to BTC easier. And yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the vision, right? To help global Bitcoin adoption by unlocking Bitcoin's potential, unlocking new use cases, and really being decentralized.
Very well. Thank you so much for sharing that goal with us. And currently, let me check. So far, we have over 1,600 audience, yeah, online with us, and we have been spending about 45 minutes chatting with Interlays CEO and co-founder Alexei, and now we will start to take questions. Alexa already sent you some questions. Feel free to pick separately to answer. Thank you.
Cool. So one of the questions is okay, what's the best way to build a secure bridge? And I think the best way is the first step is to realize that you need someone in the middle, right? I know a lot of bridge teams always say it's fully decentralized, you don't trust anyone, but that's not true. You always trust someone, and that's just the way blockchains are designed. Blockchains don't talk to each other really, right? They are secure within themselves, but the moment you go outside, it's not secure. And that is the same thing between two blockchains, right? If you want to talk to them, you have to cross this gap, which is dangerous. And that's the first step, I think, acknowledging that it is risky. And then realizing, okay, we need some people to operate this bridge. There is no way that a bridge exists without some operators. And then once we've accepted that we need some operators, then we focus on making it decentralized and trying to make sure that no single operator can take all the assets, no single operator can take the entire bridge, allow anyone to become the operator, right? Make this a fully decentralized network of bridge operators where anybody can participate. Just like in the blockchain network itself, like Bitcoin, anybody can become a miner. And then the last step is, okay, now we have a decentralized set of operators. How do we make sure that they don't steal? How do we make sure that they don't misbehave? And this is the tricky bit. How do you incentivize correct behavior? And that's when you start looking at incentives, right? So collaterals, or making it very expensive to attack the system. You have to look at, okay, how do we pay rewards? How do users pay rewards or pay fees to these bridge operators so it's worth their while, so they actually want to operate the bridge, so it's actually financially interesting? And if you have this, then you can start playing with, okay, you punish bad operators, you reward good operators, and you have this game theoretic model, just like in Bitcoin, just like in Ethereum. And that, if you get to that point, then you can say you have a decentralized bridge, and that's as secure as it can get.
Thank you so much, Alexa. Yes, and we also have some more time, so see if you wanted to take next one.
Sure.
Thank you.
There was a question: what was the major challenge you faced to build Interlay? There were quite a few challenges, obviously. I think the biggest challenge we had was that people are so used to trusting centralized exchanges, right? And everybody, all of these CDeFi, as they used to be called, right? And I put Celsius in the same category as Wrapped BTC and RAM BTC and so on, because they are all not decentralized, but they sell themselves as being DeFi. And that's the biggest challenge, because people use, for example, WBTC on Uniswap, on Compound, on Aava, on MakerDAO, and they think that they're in DeFi, right? Compound is decentralized, Aava is decentralized, Maker is decentralized, Uniswap, they're decentralized. But WBTC is not. And it's the same thing, and that's what people don't realize, unfortunately, is it's the same thing as using USDT. There it's very clear, it's dollars, it must be somewhat centralized. But with wrapped Bitcoin versions, they all trying to kind of throw some fancy words like, oh, we're using this new fancy technology. No, but they're all centralized, unfortunately. And the biggest challenge that we are facing is we have built a decentralized solution, but it must be as easy to use and as cheap to use as the centralized ones to get people to switch over, especially during a market that is in a bull run. Right now, when we see a more bearish market condition, it becomes easier because people suddenly they're more cautious. People are more careful after all these bridge hacks, and they now start looking at the security. And now basically is a very good time for Interlay to actually prove that, look, you can build decentralized bridges. It is possible. It just takes time. You can't be greedy. It doesn't take a month. It takes a year or more to actually build something decentralized, but then it actually is secure. And I think this kind of getting people to spend more time with decentralization, realize that there is a price. It's maybe not as fast, it's maybe a bit more expensive, but you get what you pay for. I think that was kind of, and probably still is, one of our biggest challenges.
Wow, thank you so much for answering that. And it is almost time. Yeah, Alex has been here for nearly an hour, and we once again really appreciate you spending time with us today to talk about your research, your education, and projects planned, and how you got a PhD while leading the company Interlay. Thank you so much for being here. Please be sure to schedule another interview with us next time. Thank you, Alexei.
Thanks so much for having me. And if there's any further questions, feel free to just drop us a message either in our Discord channels, Telegram channels, or even on Twitter. Super happy to answer more questions there. I have a few also, like if you go on the website, there's a few slides and like presentations which cover a lot of the topics that we discussed today, specifically on like how to build bridges, what bridges are secure, what makes them secure, how can they break. And I will be presenting. Oh, okay. There we go.
Yes, I'm sharing your personal website to the audience.
Cool. And I will be presenting, giving a talk at Adopting Bitcoin in El Salvador in November about Bitcoin DeFi, called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where we really take some time to look at the state of Bitcoin DeFi today. How far did we come? What are the biggest challenges? What are the opportunities? And what are the ugly bits? And the ugly bits are this fake DeFi, where projects promise to be DeFi, but they're not. And we spend some time uncovering these and looking at the technical risks, essentially. Thanks so much. It was a pleasure. And yeah, wish you a great day.
Thank you, Alexa. And we're going to say bye to our audience. I need to turn our Binance Live to